All right, so this is my review on Street and Sand Toys Auto LLC with Mike, and then on their outsourced body shop, Alliance Auto Body and Paint, with Davis Lalou. Yeah, I'll basically give you the short story first. First, I definitely recommend against spending any money with this place. That is, a serious sum of money. If you just need to buy something off the shelf, you'll probably be fine, no big deal. But if you have to drop your vehicle off, I highly recommend against using this company. Sadly, I have to, I'm compelled to warn people. There were some pros, but the cons outweighed the pros time 10. Way more negatives than there were positives. And I hate doing bad reviews, but like I said, I need to warn people. This is probably one of the worst experiences of my life, especially, particularly in involving a vehicle. I was very, very close to suing both shops, Mike and his outsourced body shop, and I'll get into details on that later. I have endless proof with voicemails, text messages, emails, you name it. I have tons of proof of lies and deception of these two companies. Total I spent was $18,679.35 with a $5,500 deposit to Mike at Street and Sand. And I have all my receipts. So the short story is basically this restoration project for body work, brakes, suspension, electrical. My late father's 1970 Beetle, dropped it off in March 7th, 2024. Mike Asris, or Michael Asris, in his outsourced body shop. They just, ruined this phase of the project by misleading, ignoring, deceiving me, and also added significant costs without my consent. And it just was a complete failure to take responsibility. So on the misleading topic, upon my arrival, I then found out at that point that bodywork paint is done off-site by an outsourced body shop. That's Davis at Alliance Auto Body and Paint. Plus, it would cost me $200 total about for the tows for a 7-minute drive. But I let all that slide because Mike had good reviews, and the 200 wasn't that much in the grand scheme of things. So, I didn't want to set the mood off by raising hell about something like that. I took a trip there in late April to see how everything was going. It was primer at that point. I found some things I didn't like freshly primered parts laying on the ground, metal work that looked questionable, but held my final judgment. I also noticed instead of replacing the Napoleon hat, which is part of the frame, they made some kind of quick fix, welded it up somehow. It kind of looked shoddy. I asked Mike, why didn't they just replace it? He said because the outsourced body shop is not. He said he's not a VW Beetle guy, so kind of just implying that he didn't know what he was. He's not a VW guy, so he didn't know or something. But whatever. I let that slide. I didn't complain too much about it. I told him, I'm not afraid to spend money on things the vehicle needs, for stability purposes and infrastructure, or the structural integrity of the vehicle. Kind of left it at that. I just asked him to keep me in the loop more. There was nothing I could do at this point anyway, so I didn't make a big deal about it. But it was annoying. Mike should have caught that, but he dropped the ball in my opinion. Looked a little bit of a dirty taste in my mouth, but I didn't raise hell about it. I left town to go back after that. Quick trip just to check on things. Around mid-May, I decided to ask Davis at the body shop if bed lining was an option. He said yes, it would be around $1,000. I said okay. I called Mike and said I wanted to add that to the bill. Shortly after that, Mike said I should strongly consider painting it. Again, this is the second time he mentioned paint. I told him I knew it was a good idea, but said no. A few days later, I thought about it, and I called him, I let him know that didn't really want to spend the 3,000 that he had mentioned prior. But I, mentioned to him that I thought I definitely should do paint, right? And so basically what I did is I contacted a local shop, Mako. They said it would be somewhere around $1,500. So my plan was to, after all the body work and everything was done, I'd probably just take it over to Mako. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, they already have my vehicle, so why not just, I'd rather put the money into Mike's pocket, or whoever, Mike in the outsourced body shop, because at that point we're still on pretty good terms. And so I figured it, I'd rather keep the money spent with them. And, but first I made clear, I said, this is what I'm thinking about doing. I'd rather spend the money with you. Do you have any other options? And I made it insanely clear, like multiple times, almost annoyingly. I kept asking them, are you sure there's nothing different between the $3,000 paint job and the $2,000 paint job that they mentioned, that Mike told me about? They made it clear that no, it was just the quality of paint. It was only the quality of paint. So after Mike made it very, very crystal clear to me that it was only the quality of the paint, I agreed with Mike. Even prior to that, I have a voicemail of him contacting me and saying, hey, we want to know if you want to do paint. We're still waiting to find out. If not, we got to pull the car out of there, yada, yada, yada. All right, so I have that voicemail proof that Mike was involved. Like I said, I made it clear I didn't want any discounts because I know how discounted work turns out. Sometimes it just really comes out terrible. So I was adamant about not wanting any discounts. And then unfortunately, later on down the road, Mike actually lied in a reply to a Facebook post that I made, trying to just get like feedback. It wasn't a bad review. I wasn't ready to leave any bad reviews because, the final product wasn't done yet. But I basically asked, what should I do in this situation? What does everybody recommend? Some people said lawyer up. But the point is just that, Mike at one point tried to lie and say he was not involved, and he's trying to just pass all the responsibility onto this outsourced body shop. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but the point is just that there was deceit involved in this situation. It was a very misleading situation, and I have the voicemail to prove that as well. So other than that, after some time went by, Mike told me the car was ready on 5/29/24, so May 29th. But he never took the time to go actually verify the work for himself. I just took his word for it. So I ended up wasting $600 on a flight to Florida, got there to pay and pick up, and it wasn't even finished, as you can see in these photos. To top it off, I even caught COVID during this trip. It was a mess. There was either some kind of small worms or debris under the coat. Davis said not to worry about it. It'll be taken care of, as well as the vents, the hinges, the dashboard, the rear vents had a bunch of debris in them. Davis also gave me an excuse about how he thought that I wanted to keep the gauges, and it was a complete mess. He also said that he was trying to have it by my schedule. I never gave him a schedule. I kept telling them there's no rush on this project. But I just got a whole bunch of excuses. I mostly let it slide. I didn't raise hell when I went to see the vehicle at the outsourced body shop. I let it be known that, okay, this is not ready. You guys wanted me to come, but it's not ready, And he kind of brushed it off. Davis at the body shop kind of brushed it off. It's just no big deal. So I went back to Mike's shop. I let him know how I felt about it. I kept my composure. I didn't raise hell. I didn't curse. I said what I had to, say. He told me to go back and talk to the shop to get it fixed. After going back and forth with Mike a little bit, he said he'd handle it. I told him no rush, I have zero scheduler deadline, and then I'll save my final judgment, till I'm told it's ready again. And so Mike Said the car should be ready by the end of the day. I got no call, so I jumped on my scheduled flight and I went home. And yeah, like I said, the icing on the cake was, I got COVID during this trip. Also, some more icing on the cake was, I even spent $60 on pizza. Total of $60 on 2 different occasions for the body shop guys, just because like I wanted to make them happy. I wanted like good energy going into this vehicle. I didn't want anybody being upset or cranky. And I just wanted to like put a smile on dudes' faces, while they were working on my vehicle. So anyway, Mike calls days later, after I had already, went home, saying that the vehicle's ready again. So I sent my brother this time because, all trust was lost. And it took me a little while to get my brother to be able to do it, but he went to see it, took a whole bunch of pictures, and, as you can see, it wasn't ready. Again, it wasn't ready. So Davis told my brother he fired the paint guy over, and gave him like some more excuses. I found out that, the paint, through the pictures, as you can see, the paint was still fused to the gauges, radio housing. There were 2 chips showing rust, tears in the paint from ripping off the tape, 3 to 4 inch spot in the rain guide that was like burnt off by quote unquote buffing too hard. And there was still debris in the engine vent. So I sent the images to Mike asking him, just asking him like how he could let this happen. Still kept my composure, but I was like, how could you let this happen? Did you not see the vehicle? He said in an email, tell him the areas that need to be corrected. If he says no, then I can get involved, which to me was BS. Like he should have been on top of this. I dropped it off to him. He sent it to his outsourced body shop. And yeah, after about this point, Mike would not do anything about it. He stopped responding to my messages. After a lot of back and forth with the body shop, because, I went back to the body shop. Davis said he gave me some weird excuse that he wouldn't do any of the changes until, or unless I was in Florida, which I didn't understand at all. It didn't make sense to me. And so anyway, he also said, you don't need to talk to me like a lawyer, because I was getting very, very, very attentive to detail at that point because, things started going south. So Davis at the outsourced body shop finally said, send me the pictures. I'll take care of it. Come here, pay for the car, get it out of here. So, Mike's argument, from what I gather at this point, and this is what I gather from his response to the Facebook post I spoke about a little earlier. It's a Florida VW group that I was seeking advice for him. He replied to that post, and it was like a bunch of BS. His argument was, it's basically that since I had spoken with the outsourced body shop about getting the spray bed liner, getting a quote for that. And originally I was just trying to get an idea of like what, if he does it and what it would cost me. I wasn't like trying to go behind his back or anything, but either way, I asked him about that. And I also asked him about sending me some photos of the progress. And I think Mike felt, since I had communicated with the body shop, that he was like absolved of all responsibility, even though like this was just one portion of the project. I still needed brakes, full suspension, like I said, disc brakes all the way around too, full suspension, electrical harness. I mean, there was still, I don't know, $5,000 left of work to do. And Mike was just threw his hands up in the air at that point. And like I said, his argument is, it's like trying to put it back onto me because I spoke with the body shop at some point. And he also, like I said, lied in the Facebook chat that I was the one that spoke with Davis and he had nothing to do with it, even though I have Mike's voicemail of him asking me, are you going to do this paint job? And so it's like, it's a terrible argument to try to turn it back around on me, the customer. And I'm not even the type of person that thinks the customer is always right. In this situation, like, he tried to turn it around on me, like I had done something wrong. And I didn't. I just wanted my car fixed, and I wanted to give them money to to fix my car. But anyway, yeah, so other deceiving points were along the way. During a trip in March, I realized that they chosen without my consent to fix the hood versus replacing it due to, quote unquote, not being able to find another used hood, which happens, but that was an additional $1,000. I let it slide because I wanted to avoid confrontation. This is earlier on, a little bit earlier on in the project, and I told Mike, I would have gotten a fiberglass hood for $500. He said I could have gotten one for $350, but you don't want to do that. You don't want to do fiberglass. You don't want to do fiberglass. And he's like trying to tell me what I want to do and what I don't want to do to my vehicle, And yeah, maybe I don't want fiberglass for the long term, but I would have been okay with it for the short term, just to like get this thing on the road, get it out of the shop, move on to the next phase, and deal with that part later on. It wasn't important to me. But the point is they just took it upon themselves to fix my old hood and not even tell me. Not even say, hey, we couldn't find you an old hood. I mean, he could have just sent me a text message. But anyway, that was a little annoying. I didn't raise hell about it. I just said, hey, future reference, any new costs, include me in the conversation. And he said, okay. He basically said, yeah, no problem. Another one. Mike asked me what I wanted to do about glass. All my glass was perfect. Like there were no problems, no cracks, no nothing. I said, just reinstall the old glass. He said, okay. And next thing I know, I'm being charged for 2 new rear windows because they didn't want to or try to or make a modification to install my rear pop-out windows in the rear. He said they couldn't find the parts or something like that. It's possible, I'm open. But still, they never even told me about it. I literally had to ask them 5 to 7 times through email, text messages, voicemails. Like, where are my windows? I'm looking at pictures of my vehicle, and there's no pop-out windows anymore. And no explanation that I have another set, I had no idea. They kept treating me like I was crazy. And then finally, later on, they told me, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, we didn't have the parts to reinstall, the rear pop-out windows. So they just, tacked on the cost of 2 new back windows. And to this day, I still don't even know how much I paid for those windows. So that's a complete joke, obviously. Another one. I sent Davis a text, a very polite text. After all this drama happened, I sent Davis at the outsourced body shop a text message with a recap of our prior phone conversation. Because at that point, I was, documenting everything said. So it was just a recap, like I said this, he said this. It was pretty neutral. It wasn't anything crazy or offensive. It was very neutral. I just wanted to document our phone conversation. So I sent that to him in a text. I also sent him a request, literally said the word, I'd like to request that you send me photos of the problem areas that you said you're going to fix after they're done. Or let me know, when they're fixed so I can have my brother go take more pictures. And a couple other things like that. And, very calm, very cool, very collective. And he literally said in a text message something like, you're trying to be difficult. Yeah, actually, I have the photo. You're trying to be difficult. Don't text me anymore. Okay, so, I replied once, said, okay, I won't text anymore. Whatever, not trying to be difficult, just trying to, document all of this perfectly. So then, other than that, I finally got a lousy invoice from Davis, which, as you can see, it doesn't even have the whole breakdown. It shows like some things that have been done, but doesn't even show the price charged for each thing. It's just like this large number at the end, a ridiculous amount of, for parts. It's just, it's kind of a shady invoice. I never to this day have a final invoice from either one of those shops that itemize everything I spent money on. So I don't know what I spent. I don't know how much I spent for the hood actually. I don't know how much I spent for the windows actually, And then the last, the final straw, this is probably some stuff I'm missing, more annoyances and excuses, but the final straw for me was the bill. So at this point, Mike is not communicating with me, right? He blocked me from Facebook Messenger, which I had, communicated with his Street and Sand Facebook page a little bit. He blocked me from he wouldn't reply to my emails. He wouldn't reply to my voicemails. Every time I called, it went rang twice, went to voicemail. Other than, and so other than that, you know, I did have a number written down from him as far as what I owed that I had gotten to him on the prior trip. And the next thing you know, Davis at the outsourced body shop, it has a different number. And so, at that point, I'm really getting annoyed because something I forgot to explain was, the vehicle at this point is ready. Like, my brother already went back, took photos. Again, this was the third time they said it was ready. Pretty much done. Still had a few flaws, but I never expected perfection for $2,000 as far as the paint. Also had flaws and some, like I said, some shoddy work with the metal, but overall it looked good, and I was fine with it. And plus I didn't want it there another day. So now back to the bill. The bill was different. And so I'm ready to go there, pay for the vehicle, but now I have a bill situation, and I have Mike not answering the phone, not, no communication from him. And then I have Davis saying, you need to talk to Mike. I said, well, listen, he's not talking to me. You contact him. You guys figure it out. And I got nothing. And so at that point, I seeked legal counsel. I spoke with local officers. I dug up information. And what I did is I sent an email to Mike's lawyer, Davis at Alliance Auto Body Paint Shop, and my lawyer. And I stated there were two options that we could do to solve this. I said one would be, Davis and Mike figure out the discrepancy in the bill, right? And get me to the price that Mike said. And I gave them option two, which is I'm going to go put a bond on the vehicle through the courts, and I'm going to sue them both. Basically, what I would do is I would pay the full amount to the court. Then the court would be then holding the money, which would give me a document that I could go to the shop, and they're legally responsible to release the vehicle once that document is handed to them. Or they could face, second degree, I think it's like a second degree misdemeanor. And so anyway, I told them I was ready. I was ready to rock. I was all mentally ready. I was financially ready to sue them. And, I went to Davis and then I told him this face to face on August 24th. We went back and forth a little bit. He was trying to tell me where I went wrong, which he was giving me a bunch of BS. And then finally he started to I started to list everything. I said, look, this is what you did, the hood. I mentioned all these things that were not right. They weren't kosher. They weren't cool. They were acceptable in some ways, shape, or forms. Not the end of the world in some way, shape, or form, but they were not correct way to go about business. And I listed all my grievances, and then I told him, I said, look, I'm ready. I'm ready to go right now. I'm ready to spend thousands of dollars to sue you, and I will, I told him, I said, I will seek damages. I'll seek lawyer fees. I said I'll seek every single penny that I lost or overpaid. And basically that closed the deal. After that, he chilled out, calmed down, lowered his temperature, lowered his tone, and basically, like I said, I paid the total amount that I told you at the very beginning of this video. The car, like I said, was mostly done. Had a little debris left in the vent, a couple other little things that were, issues, but I was fine with it. One cool thing he did was, well, I shouldn't say cool, but one appropriate thing he did was he replaced my missing car cover that I had dropped the vehicle off with. And another thing he did was give me some touch-up paint. This is Davis at the Alliance Auto Body and Paint Shop. And so, this is a review, like I said, on both shops. I never asked them for a single discount. And it just, unfortunately, it was like nice guys finish last type situation. I wanted to keep just kind of letting things slide that weren't too dramatic, because I didn't want this project to be about a bunch of drama and, need for perfection, or, trying to cut corners or things like that. And so, yeah, I mean, my biggest complaint is Mike just completely tried to like absolve himself from all responsibility with this project, and I feel as though it's wrong to do something like that. And he also lost on thousands of dollars worth of other work that I was going to do to the vehicle, because I'll never go back there. I'll never go back to either one of those places for any work that I need done on this Volkswagen. But anyway, that is the end of the story for now. Who knows though? Who knows? There might be a part two. But this is this is the end so far of this chapter. Unless I'm missing something, we'll see. It's still early. It's only a week or so after I picked the vehicle up, maybe a little bit more. But so that's my review. Unfortunately, it's not good, and like I said, I feel compelled to leave it to warn anybody that's contemplating spending a significant amount of money with either one of these shops. They're just not trustable people. I don't think Mike is in it anymore, mentally in it. I don't think he's, I mean, you can tell by the social media. They don't post. They don't care. They don't reply to comments when they get one. They only reply to Google reviews. Most of the Google reviews very much come off as, just came in for some parts. They had it. Great store, great place, great everybody, great, great, great. But you look deeper and you'll find some stuff that's not so great, which I kind of ignored. Unfortunately, I didn't ignore it. I took it in, but I didn't base my final judgment on it, which I kind of wish I did. I would have avoided a lot. All right, so enough said. If I have anything to add, I'll add it. Thanks.